Some of you will agree with me and others will completely disagree, and that's totally fine. But in this video, I want to share my personal opinion why I personally don't want to have designer clothes or designer accessories in my life. And I want to make this video because I feel like currently we're very influenced that this is what we should aspire to have one day. Obviously, many people strive towards having more money and less money worries, and that's completely okay. But at the moment, it's also kind of linked to being able to afford designer items once you have that kind of money. And I just personally don't agree with that. So in this video, I want to give my personal opinions and maybe give you some food for thought if you have been considering getting designer items or if you feel pressured to get them. If you're new, my name is Rebecca and my channel is about making your finances and your life more simple, so welcome. Let's get to the two main reasons why I don't buy designer items. The first reason is very subjective, but I personally just don't think these items are very pretty. And let's talk about clothes and accessories here, because there I do know some brands and I do know some pieces. So that's what I have in mind, and maybe in some other categories I wouldn't even know what they're selling. So let's not talk about the other categories because I'm not very knowledgeable on luxury brands, but clothes and accessories. I have rarely seen pieces that I actually really liked. So I'm just not willing to buy them because if I think something is ugly, then I will not spend money on it. I don't like flashy things or logos everywhere, so some of the designer brands are just not for me. So that's just a personal preference. You might also argue that I just don't have a sense of fashion and I don't understand this fashion world. And yeah, maybe you're right. I have a very simple and basic style of clothes that I like. For me, that's actually an advantage because it means if I don't like these things, I will be less inclined to buy them and to spend so much money on them. Another reason that kind of plays into this one is that I did not grow up in a very affluent neighborhood or where people just flashed their wealth. So for me, that's a very foreign and weird thing to do. It's just something that I don't feel comfortable probably ever doing. So that's just a me thing. The second main reason why I don't buy designer items is because I don't think they're worth the price. Let me explain here. Designer brands are often associated with much higher quality, but if you look behind the scenes, the quality is not as high as it's promised to be.
You remember when the chain snapped off of this bag? So embarrassing. And I did get it fixed, but guess what? I was too embarrassed to tell you, it happened again. Now, okay, I got it fixed again. They put in reinforcements. I just have too much anxiety to wear it.
A padded cassette bag. It literally looks like Zara made it. I'm sorry, Bottega. It also has very obvious signs of wrinkling, and I have worn this bag once.
I personally think that the quality of a designer handbag is obviously maybe twice or 3 times as high as a cheaper handbag alternative, but the price markup is like 10 to 100 times. So that to me is just not justifiable. Sometimes they even manufacture in the same factories as cheaper brands.
The mini Coco handle Chanel. I bought this in Paris, but here's the thing. The stitching is so bad. The gold is gold plated. It is a new Chanel, so you know the quality is like factory manufactured. It is not good quality. If I wasn't in the Chanel store in Paris and purchased this with my own eyes and my own money, I would think it was a fake.
I might be able to go with it's a higher quality and I'm willing to pay the markup price because it's just a better brand. But to me, a better brand is not the flashy logos or the prestige of the name. It's actually caring for sustainability and ethics standards. And if you actually take the time and dive into the rabbit hole of looking for sustainability and ethic issues with luxury brands, you'll be going through reports and articles for hours. Just this one, for example, luxury brands, higher standards or just a higher markup. Do expensive clothes actually come with a guarantee of ethics? If you pay more for clothing, do workers or assembly lines in cotton fields automatically get paid more? One striking finding from the report is that the gap between legal minimum wages and minimum estimates for living wages tended to be even larger in Europe's cheap labor countries than in Asia. In Croatia, for example, the report says suppliers for Benetton and Hugo Boss paid 1/3 of what would constitute a minimum living wage. There are brands like Burberry that decided to move their manufacturing from the UK to China, and other brands that still produce in Europe but actually with cheap immigrated labor from Asia, so the working conditions are not much better. Behind the glass is the same dirt, the same factories, and the same working conditions. So for me, designer brands just don't have very enticing reasons why I should buy from them and support their business. And by all means, I'm not saying you should not buy quality items. I'm totally for investing into high quality pieces that you really love in order to avoid throwing away things after a while because they break. What bothers me is that with designer brands, you actually pay for the name and for the prestige and not necessarily for a much higher quality. You can actually go and have your dream handbag or your dream dress handmade for you by a local business or a local manufacturer. There you can have the highest quality, you know exactly who makes that item and under what conditions, and you can have it adapted to your specific needs and wishes. So purely from a sustainability and ethics standpoint, that would probably be the best alternative for getting something unique and of very high quality. But I know some people just want designer brands specifically for the designer brand, and that's completely okay. I mean, all of us prefer some brands over other brands, even myself. I totally get that, but I think it's very important to question why we value certain brands. Is it just because of the prestige that comes with it, or is it because we truly love the pieces that they sell? Would you still buy that same item if it did not have the name on it, if it did not have the logo on it, and nobody knew how much money you spent on it? If yes, and you genuinely love that item, then of course, why should you not get it? But be careful that you don't spend money on things that you don't even like to impress people that you also don't even like. I mean, there's a saying that kind of goes like that. So yeah, don't fall into that trap. In my opinion, designer items should not be something that the middle class aspires to have, because if we're being honest, the middle class cannot really afford them. At least not without sacrificing other financial goals. If you're someone who makes millions of dollars and you buy a $10,000 handbag, that's probably the same as if I, with my salary, bought a $100 or $50 handbag. So I get it, that person can absolutely afford it. But for most of us, buying designer items would actually mean that we have to save a couple of months or even years to buy that item, and we have to think about what we're sacrificing, and we have to have in mind that that money is time that we spent working for that money, or that money we could have also spent in a different way, maybe for experiences, or maybe for another financial goal that we have, or maybe for our retirement account. If we had used that money for retirement, maybe we could retire earlier. These are just things that we should have in mind. There's always a cost of something, and I've made a video on the true cost of things. For me personally, I just rather have that time as free time and not spend working to make that amount of money that I would need for that designer purchase, and instead actually get other quality items that are maybe still a fraction of the price of a designer item. I'm not saying I'm never gonna buy a designer piece, I don't know, but at the moment I can't see myself ever putting that amount of money towards a material thing. But who knows, maybe in 10 to 20 years my taste has changed completely and I'll have a ton of money, and then maybe I want to get these pieces. I don't know. In that case, you guys can call me out and tell me that back now, I would have not wanted to spend that much money on that. Actually, I just remembered because we were talking about clothes and accessories, and I was just thinking about perfume. And I actually do have luxury brand perfumes. I actually do own a Dior and a Burberry perfume, and I feel very bad for saying that I've never purchased anything designer, but I've never connected these to like the designer brands of clothes and accessories, and they weren't as expensive. I don't know. Okay, I'm taking everything back. Perfumes I have purchased before. I'm sorry for lying. I'm also very happy and grateful for the place I'm currently at, and I don't think I need designer for that. Let me explain. So I don't struggle with money anymore. I don't have to think twice about every single penny that I spend. I'm really enjoying that season of my life. I can buy some nicer things for me, or I don't have to look at the price everywhere, but I basically still shop at the same places and I still live at the same apartment as before. So I think that's just another phase of our lives that we should really enjoy once we don't struggle with money that much anymore, and we can buy some selected pieces that we really love and that maybe cost a couple of dollars more than we would have been able to spend a few years ago. But buying designer items, that's another huge jump that I don't think we should all have to make. For most, that's just unnecessary lifestyle inflation, just unnecessarily spending much money on things that you could have found very similar elsewhere for a fraction of the price. So to sum this video up, I don't think everyone should buy designer clothes. I don't think you should have it your goal to make enough money to buy designer one day. Or if you have the money, I don't think you should automatically say, oh, I have the money now, I can buy myself a nice designer handbag now because I deserve it. That should not be the default. That's what society is trying to convince us of. You're not less successful just because you don't own a designer item or because you don't display your wealth. Let's not buy into that narrative. Some of the richest people don't flash their wealth or wear expensive things. So just think about your own priorities, your own financial goals, and make sure that your purchases align with those. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, you will probably enjoy the overconsumption is keeping you poor or the true cost of things. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of designer items. Have you ever bought something designer and have you regretted the purchase or not? Let me know. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in my next video.